Okay, hello. Good evening. My name is Ben Clothier, and I am salutatorian of the market of impact. And tonight, I'm going to be talking about a new approach to managing. In our job, we see probably a half or to a third of our projects always have documentation. And it varies with the different applications and with the Word documents or with the Excel spreadsheets or with the different PDFs and things that are related to that as we have to give information to the database. So the situation pops up once in a while that the approach might be successful if we use a new technology, and it's called SQL, FileTable, and it's a good way to access. And before I get into the new approach, I want to talk about what has been the traditional way to do it for many years. As you go around and you see all the activities, and we all tend to do what? We tend to use the share file sharing. And then we put all of our information in there, and then we save it on the path, and we document it, then we put it on the spreadsheet. And in some situations, maybe the exact sentence might say the path will be included or identified by a number. So the application itself, you would know what to do with documenting that and then saving it. I'm going to the screen here, and there's a few things itself that it's very important to know so that it will go together as we look. And we have to have backward folders, backup folders. Okay, and that's okay. That's okay to have. It's very complex, but we tend not to give that all the time on the flow chart. So anyway, as we add and document, there's a lot of people who just use it directly to the file share. And then the application itself, you have to click this to open it up, and then the application itself is new, and then you have to enter it over there in the file share. Okay, so now as you click the new tab, and then you do all the files themselves, they're not included in the database. So as you delete the old ones, the database doesn't really catch up. So then we've lost information with no file sharing, and that's a problem. Also, we tend to practice teaching using how to become accustomed to our desktop, or as we put things onto the spreadsheet, it's hard to do. We have to follow a procedure step by step by step. Anyway, as we do the application, and we have these approaches, I'm going to show you the old way and then compare that to the new way. And hopefully this SQL spreadsheet will be better. Okay, and in this situation, let's just imagine right now that we have a document control manager. And so we have to get signatures, and we have a tendency to tweak things and have a draft and send it back and forth, and then we tend to add other additional copies to that to sign. So let's just imagine the situation that we have, that we're going to be doing that, and that we have to document on the form, and then I have to show that it has been. And I've done that approach for many, many years, and I've used this, and I put it in my, I save it in my file. But anyway, as I add additional things, it tends to look like I click the button, and then I get a new document. I can add a new document. And then I'll have an extra spreadsheet, and then as I give you more explanation as to what kind of document, maybe you could take some notes and see how they go together and how we can save it in the database and not in the file share itself. Okay, so this is some document tweaking. And I don't really have to explain that. But now as we're doing the additional there, we can go ahead and click on the number 2. And suppose we click that. And as it pops up, it's not real. Hold on. That it's wrong because I just use an imaginary file share. So, but suppose that you click on and as you're reading the document and you're tweaking that for the signature. Also, it's customary in the file share to see the structure. I'm looking for it. Hold on, please. Okay, as you can see, the structure's there, the folder's there, and then we have the path with the number, the first number, number 1. That's the first file, and it's related to the document on the form, on that document, and then we save it there, and we get the signatures, and then we file from there out. And then we identify, we don't have to use the name again. Why? Because the file itself already knows what to do with that. It's related with what's already on the document. So as you picture this and you see the problem with the approach, with the name, so the user, it doesn't pop up necessarily. You can just use the application itself. So now that I've showed you that, and we've shown you what we're accustomed to, then I'm going to move over and show you how we can do the new approach. Okay, as you can see, the document, the form itself, the header's there, but below, it's very different. So as you look itself, it has additional files. For files. You can go back. I'm going to go back to one level. And this is a new file. And as you look at it, it looks the same in the window. But then I'm going to right-click. And use Excel. We can do that. And also see that it's the same procedure in the window. And so with the file there, we've already added a few more files. And I take the document and I drop it, and then the files pop up. Also, I need to know what kind. So what am I going to do? And on the bottom, it shows you what kind. And because I just created a file, and I haven't added any additional information in the files. So now I'll go ahead and add. And here's another demonstration. Okay, so now I'm proposing we have two different ways for it to have this data. So what do we do with the other files? So I'm going to click on number 2 up at the top, and it says number 2, no kind, and then it identifies all the files. They haven't done it yet. I haven't put it there yet. So I pick and I say, okay, I'm going to apply this. So as I click, and it says apply all the documents, and now we have three changes to the operation. So now with the documentation that we have, that this approach, you can see that I used the same window, but it's a lot easier way to do, and it's a smooth way to do. So how do we do that? Okay, I'd like to explain more to you. The use of the SQL with the file manager, and I'd like to show you where I'd like to show you. Let me get it here. I was going to use the other database as an example, but let me do this. Okay, so as you can see, we're accustomed to that approach. And we have the number 1 file with the signatures to keep all our files and have them divided. And now look at this. When you see all the files, they're there. It's the same thing you can see on the window. And it's the same thing. Now, as you look on the data, what does the database look like? Let me show you. And I forgot to change the database. Hold on. Okay, so as you look at it and you see the schedule, or the chart, excuse me, and as you put the files in it, and you try to have your file folders. Okay, wait a minute. I'm going to take that window off. Hold on. So the kind of files that we have, this is just what I'm trying to show you now on this SQL. So the column itself in the book or in the file, I'd like to get this all disseminated to you for free. Okay, so I'm hoping that it causes you to think and think about the new approach, and then maybe back up and say, I think I can do this. So anyway, as I explained, the file database itself, both of them are connected, and they share with the spreadsheet in the database. And you can use the same thing that you do every day, SQL, or you can get your information as you have been doing it to make the announcements or to be successful. So as you take the different lines and you add them, it will work. Now, what is the benefit of that? To have the permission to get in to control by SQL, I'd like to show you something. Hold on. I'll show you how you can manage that. And I've chosen a policy. And if you look, you'll see on the other files that I brought up that there's some tabs. And there's security. There's not any security. And the reason why is because the SQL itself is its own data manager. So anyway, if I give it permission, then the SQL will go ahead and manage that itself. Okay. So I know it's new. I mean, it's not real new, but it's still relatively new and technologically. And it came around about 2012. And the SQL server, we have to move up to the new SQL. That's more efficient. And then also, if you have the file stream, that's very important because you can't manage, it doesn't manage the server. So if you ask your database to permit you to have it turned on, and then it will be equal, and then let me show you, for example, to go from the old one to the new one. Okay, so as you see the different policies, okay, and there on top is the file stream for access, and you can choose complete access. And if you choose only transact SQL, then it won't transfer and drop it. And then it will ask you to have a new window function. And the server itself, as it makes tweaks and it goes to different levels, the database itself supports the file stream. And there's a few requirements. For example, if you're going to make a new database, you have to have two files, one MDF and LDF. But the file stream itself requires a third. Not really a file, but it's the same concept. So it's the file group and the file itself. And lastly, you have to make the file and then show what it's going to look like. File chart. And I'm creating a database to show you. It'll be pretty fast. your patience, please. Okay. As you have the first policy, you have to set it up, the file group, and second to the top and second to the bottom, the file stream. I'm going to consolidate that. And as I do that, then I'm going to press save and then press OK. And understand itself as it explains the file group. You know, I'm just making it up. It's not necessarily there, but you have to keep that in mind when doing it. So again, the access policy, and then you go to the file itself, and you can go ahead and attach a file. And you choose the file stream there. And then click OK. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I missed something. Oh, dear. I forgot the path. I forgot to put the path. Let me do that. Okay, hold on. Okay, I did. That's good enough. So I click OK. And then lastly, there's one more change. Okay, I'd like to explain the dictionary for the database itself. For example, if you go back, and earlier I showed you, you have to have 4 databases. And as you see it, there's 4 of them themselves, and they're in folders. And in each one has its own folder and information. So I need to add that. Also, I want to give you a summary of the access for full access. If you want to read about it yourself, you can. But I'm going to press OK. And I wait until it closes to connect. Okay. And now I'm refurbishing. And then the file shows up itself there. And that's how you do the file sheet. Okay, so as you're making your own spreadsheet, your own columns, you can't do that. Making that, so you have to establish and stay with the columns that you have, that you're used to. You're kind of limited. Or you can explain the use to the file, and then you can show it inside the window as you search for it in the search window. And then you can add more indexes or indices. Mm-hmm. And then as you attach the trigger. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard to do that. So then, now I'm going to show you. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, I think I missed something. Hold on. Okay, I forgot to use. Okay. Now, what it looks like, I'm going to show you right now. Okay. And as you see all those columns, and there's a lot of them, and you can't write to them. You have to calculate, and then you can write to them. But we can discuss that later. But anyway, I just want you to get a picture of the basic procedure as to how to make the file charts and see if it's satisfactory. So, back to our demonstration with the documentation, and I explained the file charts there. Now, I imagine you're wondering about, now how can I do this with the program? How can I set this up? So I'm going to show you. I want you to look. I'm sorry, hold on. I made a mistake. Okay, you make a check. Okay, I checked it. Woo, it's all right. Okay, so as you do the access, then I'm going to show you how to do that with the server. So you have 2010 and up. You have to do that. And then you have to use the web search. And it's kind of strange. Why do you have to use the web search with looking at the files? Well, that's what I want to explain to you. It's good, to be able to tweak the registry. That's good. It's a good thing to do that. We can do that. And we can write to HKCU. And unless we have permission to do that, that's hard to do, to attach that. That's that profile. So why the registry? Why? So I will show you what happens. That's okay. That's okay. So now I'm proposing to you that you get rid of the key and also close the portal. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Okay. And we see what no looks like now. So now, how does that work? It doesn't work that well. I'm going to show you. I'm going to right-click the mouse. And then we get a warning. Danger, danger. Why? Because the server itself, the network, is far. So I'm concerned, oh no, it's a threat, it's danger. Maybe there's a virus or something. It's a warning. So every time you right-click, it's going to give you a warning to be careful. And I don't know why it does that, but it's our own server, and when we deal with it, it should trust us. But the reason why is that the registry has tweaked it, and that's why it is the way it is. So now I click OK, and then it shows the files, and it says to close, and then one more thing. And then it says, what am I going to do? I'm going to be checking to see if it has the registry there, and if not, and then it's going to give me a warning. So I click on that, and I accept yes, and then I go ahead and I attach, and I read it. But the difficulty is that I have to start the program again, because that's just the way it is. I'm going to see if I can try something. Nope, it still gives the warning. Yeah, okay, well, that's fine. Yeah. So anyway, now the warning's gone. So the reason why is because of that registry. So, and that's good. Also, the code that's against the shell and the internet, those two, we depend on those, utilizing those. So then we have to go ahead and do this. And we access the design. And then when you see on the right side, the label says Web Manager there. So we look and see how that works. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, I'm waiting for the code to come up now. All right. So as I'm reading it now, it says the object is to use this a lot. The rule for the window for the search. If I'm looking and I want to add more information, I have to have the MSDN column. And let me find that. Let me find that. Okay. It tends to be the MSDN or the S or the shell option. So we'll see how that goes. So as it opens up, and I'll see what page we're going to go to. And so it's showing a list of all the different objects that can be used. And let me see if I can find, there it is, the shell view. And that itself is what can be used. And I'm wondering, how do I get that? I'm going to show you right now. Okay, the reason why, it depends on the web search browser, on the web browser itself, and it has the object, and then it gives us the shell object, and it kind of goes around the back door to what we need. And so I'm going to show you what we do with the code. So as we analyze and see what we have, at first we find the path that we're going to use, and we notice the path that it's the same path. That is our goal that we're going to try to do for our file sheet. And then also we give the key to number 1 that's related to the recording of itself. Okay. Documentation. So here, we made it very, very small to get the path that will go that will have all the documentation that's underneath it. And if we miss the files, anything that's underneath where we started that, it will be connected to number 1.
Mm-hmm. That's all right. You're doing good.
And so another thing, as we check, as we look inside our book, and we might be able to make this up to make a new documentation. So we want to make sure that we get the new documentation folder there. We don't really have to make it up because we already have one. So, as we noticed, first of all, as we took the web object from the internet and we searched for it, for the object, and what do we do? That's kind of strange. So we have two objects that are labeled web browsers. But I'm going to show you something else. Browser? Or web search engine. I'm not sure. Okay. So as we enter the access in the library, and so then we go to the manager, and we see it's almost the same thing. It's not exactly the same thing, but it almost is. The internet browser. I'll show you. And so as you compare both, they're almost the same thing, but there are a few differences. And I just wanted to show you on the newer one, on the SQL, the difference between the objects. Okay, and let's continue. Okay, so the web browser or the search engine that we looked for, we'd like to compare the functions. I doubt if it'll work, but I'm going to see if it will. Let's see. Not exactly like that, because it's Chrome that it seems to work with the IE. So let me see. I don't know if it has IE. Internet Explorer. Let me see. I'm looking. Okay, I'm looking. I think it has Internet Explorer. And as I put it in that path, as you see, it's populated, and it says the function. We need to take advantage of that and put it in the path, and then as it populates on the other side, we say, "Oh, great." Okay. I think I know where I am. Hold on. Yeah. It's searching. Hold on. Okay. Holding. No. I guess I'll wait till it opens up. Hold on. So I'll go ahead. Okay. So it just seems okay. It seems like magic. And as we travel to our goal, to the path, we can get the document and itself, the HTML file as well. In that situation, it doesn't populate to the web address or anything like that. So we have to use the path to get there. So as we get the shell and the object out of that file, I'm going to show you that. So anyway, as I take it out of the shell, and that means that I can look and respond to see what it's saying. Let me show you that. Okay, hold on. Okay, so here's an example. So we have one activity here that we can look at, and then as we make the change, we can choose. We'll pick one. Okay, so as we click, and then we make the response, and see what the user wants us to do with that through the search. So we're thinking, oh, okay, we got it. So we have a little bit more management there. And we have more codes. And whether it be positive or negative, I don't know for sure. So as I'm cleaning up here, and I see I'm expecting that it will get better. And for the summary of this, as we use the web manager, and as it populates, then we can take the web object out of that, and then we can take the shell objects out of that as well. And then we can look to see what happens to the shell and the objects through the SQL. And that's the problem, because you know what? As we look forward to that, we have to tend to use the early binding mesh, and we can't do that. Do it too late. Oh yeah, I can. Oh no, you can't, because it won't do that. You can't. It just doesn't have that function. So you have to have the early mesh. And should you test it, or does it seem early? I don't know for sure, but I do know that there is one version of the RDL that I can show you right now. Okay, and as you can see, that's the folder, and that's the shell. Okay, shell. I got that. And the shell itself can save itself in the window. Yeah. And so as you depend if you want to use the 3.2 or the 3.4, so whatever you want to use, you can decide that yourself. And also the Internet Manager, that's what we use. And we have to understand about using the web and the browser and the automatic attachment too. Because if we don't have that, we have to add those two things. That's required. So, okay. So, anyway, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but I'm excited. Like right now, I thought we could discuss about some issues that we're finding with the new approach. And first of all, the big problem is, I know in some small businesses, they don't have their own windows. And it's also their domain. And suppose that they're using a work group, and it's kind of sticky. So it's possible, but I wouldn't say it's the best practice. So the customer, he himself or herself, can buy the Windows server and then have the domain, because everyone has the same identification on various computers. And with the workstation, like the ID, maybe it's the same name, and everyone's band's on a computer, and somebody else is on another computer, but they don't. There's too much of a conflict. And so anyway, another thing that might happen is I've noticed that that as we read our files, especially as we look through our windows of the Access, we can't lock or secure it because of the conflicts. And I can show you what we tend to do.
You're fine. That's better than me.
Okay, here we go. So here's an example of I go ahead and read the information from the file, and then I look and I want to add a hint. Okay, and so I add that most of the time as I read it. And if I don't, then I'll be really stuck because the other person using the window who has it open there is not, it's not like there seems to be limitations. There's not a flexibility as to how you can access that or not. And it kind of interferes with the policy. So as you see, we have to do more coding with the approach of what we use. There's a few codes, but anyway, what's beneficial with the function, as you can see, is if we take it and drop it and right-click it and let it populate, and then as we put in all the different codes, then we would have a backup plan for a better functional operation. So I still notice that still there are some situations where it's not smooth, where the customer gives me things and I get emails that like on Outlook. And as you take it and drop it, and then you put it on your desktop and you take it and drop it there, that might work. And you drop it to the files. Nah, that may not work on the spreadsheet. So to work around that, what do? You take it and you drop it on the desktop first, and then you drop it to the file chart, and then that's pretty successful. Why? I don't know, but it is. And also, I like talking about mistakes and things like that. Sometimes I think, let me show you an example, what I think, about. Okay. What we do where we make the mistake is that there isn't the paper that's valuable is missing, and whoever makes that paper, for example, I forgot to add this document, so I try to explain the trigger on the file. Vacant. And so, as we explained before, you can attach the trigger to the file. But suppose the trigger itself fails. Then, let me show you this. Okay, so I'll show you how it can be successful. So, hold on. Wait a minute, please. We'll go ahead and attach the file. And wait a minute, I think I miscalculated something. I'm sorry. It says, nope, I can't find the mistake. I can't find that message. It's very helpful, or not. What do you think? Aha. So the reason why, because the trigger itself failed. When the trigger failed, it caused it to relapse and then to back up, and then we couldn't save it. So my suggestion is that when we get to refile the chart, just to test it in SQL first while it's there. And if you have success there, then we'll know that it will work in the window search too. And I'll try to show you that as well. One hour. Okay, so for example, as I attach the file to the spreadsheet, and then I just want to explain about what I do. Okay, understand first, we want to put the file in the exact location under the document number 1 in that file. So the ID for the path that we want to add the additionals has to be attached. And then that path itself on the SQL kind of looks to see where the file number 1 is. And then as we add the other one, that number we just make up. It's a random number. And whatever the policies and procedures require. You don't really have to have a name. The SQL itself will make up various, will generate the numbers itself in the file. So as you're viewing it, the new path, it's the same path that starts and it continues on, and then it'll have a stopping place, and the new numbers and IDs will automatically populate themselves, generate themselves. As you can see. And so also in SQL, you can write directly to the stream itself, and it'll explain the file. In this situation, we don't want to write it. It's a vacant file, so we want to use 0x. And as we look as to what happens, and there in the SQL, it gives you more of an explanation and clarification of what happened. That you can't leave it vacant. You have to show a column, and you have to go back to the trigger and fix that. So now we test it again. And it looks like it's successful. And so then we have a new pop-up. We right-click to make sure that it's working in the window as well. And it looks like, okay, yep, it looks like it's successful, and it's all good. And so now, rather than explanation, I'll just summarize what the goal is that we're trying to achieve. And what's the trigger for? Also, I'd like to explain, as I did earlier, about the file chart itself, how it's established with those columns, and how we can add new columns. And that's a problem. Why? Because most of the time we tend to want to keep attaching information and the identification and what kind of document and all the other things that go along with it. So how does that connect? Okay, well, I have a solution, I believe. Make another spreadsheet or chart. And then have those two columns and that you can add more information that will be related and coordinate. And also, which file also, I just want to show you an explanation of what it looks like. Let me see. I'm trying to think. Okay, I'm going to close this window. Okay, I'm trying to find it. Excuse me. So now, with the second chart that we have, also the explanation of the foreign key relationship between the file chart of both systems and the coordination. Also, I established, notice that I have cascade.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is that the people who use the window search and they put it up and put their information in and then remove the information, and then they decide to delete this and keep this on the chart. That means that the second flow chart then would be deleted and have to be tweaked in order for them to both mesh. Okay, so the problem is the foreign key itself helps us solve the deletion. But what about inputting additions? And that's why we have to have the trigger. So every time the trigger happens, we have a new input in our folder. Or maybe it changes. We don't know. Something might be different in the folder. So we try to gather all the information, all the data, and from our past, and analyze it. And then we document and we register. And so we want to make sure that the documentation itself, we're not making up anything or that it's solid. Then we go ahead and we combine all this. We combine the charts, the basics, and then maybe would they tweak it? We can tweak it later, as long as we can get them to assimilate. And then we use so that's how we can view at the tweaking and watch it mesh with all of our data. So let me see. So we've talked about how we can use the recording. We could post it on the internet. We can demonstrate the files, the scripts. As we look at that, you can play with the stuff yourself and see what you think. But if you have any questions, I would like you to go send them to me. And good night, everyone, and thank you.